Okay, I just want to say Nancy Pelosi told the president that she would restore. They can talk about the wall after he restored government. I have a clip on it, and then now they're saying once he restored government, and remember, there's people that also were on his side. So in the face of all the people that might have been for it, she came. They just now they're saying they're not working with him at all. So I just feel that was a lie to the people, and that kind of character, you got to really look at that. I mean, you can't just lie. Now you have to talk. But I want to deal with the issue of the rebuttal. It came from an African American sister, and she was talking about families, and how important it is. But I want to say this: to not acknowledge that drugs have ripped through African American inner city and destroyed them, literally, and the drugs came right over the border. How I know, I lived in South Central LA. I'm an eyewitness. There are drugs. Just Google Border Patrol. You'll see the drugs, the tunnels, and everything else. Not immigrants. We're talking drugs now. Okay? Drugs have to be regulated at that border, because if they don't, the black people families are going to continue to be ripped apart. And another point was the reform bill that would affect African Americans again, as well as other Americans. But hey, for them to be nonviolent and to get a second chance, that was another good point. So the checks and balances in the system, you can see, just to say, well, everything he said is evil and off. If you go into a situation with a biasness, and they did that with Jesus, the religious leaders, and Trump ain't no Jesus for sure. But if you go on anything with a biasness and not an open mind, that's why the miracles he did, they rejected his miracles because of the biasness. All I'm saying is, for you to look at the drugs that have destroyed our inner cities, and to look at the reform bill that will directly affect African Americans, and if you are African American, when you stand up and you talk about families, can you please consider the fact that there is a scourge of drugs in our communities, in our ghettos, and most of it does come over the border. They just caught El Stapo, one of the biggest Mexican cartels in the world. And a lot of the drugs, meth and cocaine, comes over the border. You can't just sit there and act like that's not a fact. So in the light of great light, when great light comes, you are to, and that could come in facts, you are to either accept it or reject it. If you reject it, the darkness remains. To not come up with a solution to secure the borders from the Democrat side, or African Americans speak of any kind, to act like the drugs have, in fact, have desecrated our communities and destroyed many, many lives and families. To come back and just make a point about families, and where's the jobs, by the way, not to mention that, is just, I understand, but hatred will blind you. There are 2 points that was legitimate conversation in the State of the Union that directly dealt with African Americans, to not acknowledge it, or any Democrat to not acknowledge it. That these 2 things do deal with the inner cities, and they do affect our cities, and drugs have came over the border. To act like that's not true when you have the facts and all that light from the Border Patrol, and if you Google it, YouTube it, you'll see the drugs coming over. That's just insanity. That's the biasness that causes us to reject light. Then you got to remove Trump totally out this principle. We're talking about the principle of locking your door so the dope man can't come in and continue to wreak havoc. To act like that's a lie, to act like that don't exist, to talk about let's just heal families and everything gonna be all right, when you got a dope dealer on every corner, and a lot of those drugs are coming from Mexico and Canada and wherever else it can get in this country, but most of it probably comes over the border. It's just either it's the blind leading the blind, or we need a whole new leadership, really, that's going to take our issues serious and be in tune with what's really going on in our inner cities. Because you can't act like drugs don't exist. And the brothers, they ain't brung in no kilos of cocaine unless they had a connection. So, and then act like there's no crime in the face of all the facts of people that have been hit by people that can't be traced because of fingerprints. That's a fact. So when you deal with all these facts, and I'm certainly not no trumpeter, I'm just for principle. Principle triumphs over personality, color, whoever you say or you thought you was. If the principle, it would take unification to stop drugs from coming into this country, why aren't you on that page? I would say that to every congressman, every senator that so-called say they represent my hood and stand there and act like that is not important, to not clap your hands, to not even acknowledge, to act like that was so far off, shows me you're a false leader. There's no way you really got our best interests. So the bottom line, if you really have the best interests, then we're going to walk in the light we have. Statistics prove that a lot of the drugs come from the border. Let the immigrants in. Do what you got to do, long as you can provide jobs for all of them. Because you got 150 million jobs, they said. But there's 300 million Americans here already. And there's 1 million immigrants coming every year. Fix the drug problem. That's what I want a leader to talk about. And fix the job problem in the black communities, please. Because I'm African American. And that's all we're asking. And to act like those two problems don't continue to exist. You know, the jobs, and immigration and how it affects jobs. How many people are in this country, and where is the drugs? Where do they come from? I had a best friend, he was shot by two other of his friends. They shot him right in the heart while his daughter and his mother, his wife, went to the store. They robbed him, all behind the drugs. And down in South Central LA, in fact, we knew exactly where the drugs came from. They came over the border. So to say that there has not been bloodshed, there's been nothing wrong, business as usual, no solution to the security of the border because of the drugs. And you say you represent the black community. And no voice on it, just it's prejudice to even mention it. It's not about my Mexican friends, because my mother is black and Mexican. It is, I love my Latinos, but I don't love the drugs that come through from the cartels that come in and destroy our inner cities and have destroyed them. God has to plead our cause on this. There's some justice somewhere, but blind leaders will ignore that, say it's racing just to secure a vote, and you really don't have to address the issue because we'll let the blood run in the streets, let them keep getting 30 and 50 years for selling it, and we don't want to deal with that. Let's just talk about something else. You talk about families? Really? So all I'm saying, we need leaders that's going to be truly, you can almost say independent. Because the mindset that I see in leadership now is not even real as far as representing African Americans. The one thing you could have rejoiced in was the reform bill for prisons that was directly impacting African Americans. That was a good point. And the drug, pointing out the fact of the drugs. If you can't agree with the crime, the drugs, if you can't agree with that, then you've been brainwashed, because facts and principles and spiritual laws are in fact triumphs over personalities, over gifts that men may have, over charisma and charismatic people, over whatever kind of personality type and who you title and think you are. You look for the principle and the violation of spiritual laws, and that's your answer, not a man. Because it's a curse to put your trust in man. Well, God bless you. I just hope that we see some real change. But if we don't, and things go on as usual, the body bags are going to keep be rolling. People still going to get the 25 to life. And our families, as the representative in the rebuttal said, the sister said, families, we need to focus on families. Well, securing the drugs from coming over here would be definitely focusing on African American families. And I'm just telling you first hand, man, that is a major issue. It almost destroyed my family. So I don't know what's going on, brother, but ain't no brainwashing no more. Either you in line with facts and principles or you're not. And you could be Democrat, conservative, or whatever you want to call yourself, but I'm looking for the spiritual law and the principle. In this case, unification is the spiritual law to stop drugs from coming into the country. Unification is the spiritual law that would solve and help jobs. Let's keep it 100. Let's keep it real. God bless.